It was just another Tuesday afternoon at the local branch of Brookline Savings. Fluorescent lights buzzing, the soft hum of printers, and the occasional clink of coins dropping into trays. A young girl, no older than 12, stepped up to the counter clutching a white envelope, her small hands trembling just slightly. Her hair was neatly braided, her backpack zipped tight, and her voice polite when she said, "I'd like to deposit this, please." The teller glanced at her, barely looking up from his computer. Then he frowned. He took the envelope, opened it, and froze. It was a check, a large one, too large in his mind for someone like her. "What's this for?" he asked, his tone sharp, his eyes narrowing. She shifted nervously. "It's from my mom." His lip curled just slightly, suspicion thick in his voice. "And who exactly is your mom?" What he didn't know was he was about to find out. Now, I've seen plenty in my time. 60 years of walking this earth teaches you a thing or two about how people look at each other and how fast they judge. But this story, this one stuck with me. Maybe because it reminded me that no matter how far we think we've come, some folks still carry around the same tired assumptions like old luggage they refuse to throw away. Her name was Ava, bright-eyed, curious, with that kind of quiet confidence only a well-raised child carries. She was 12, maybe 13, wearing a navy blue school uniform and a silver bracelet her mother had given her for her last birthday. That day, her mom had handed her a sealed envelope and said, "Walk it over to the bank after school. Just hand it to the teller. You'll be fine." The branch was on the corner of Maple and Fifth. Not the fanciest part of town, but clean, well-kept. The kind of place that prides itself on knowing its customers, or so it claimed. Ava stepped through the glass doors right on time. She stood in line like anyone else. She waited her turn. But what came next she never expected. When Ava reached the counter, she smiled the way her mother taught her. Polite, respectful. She slid the envelope across the desk and said, "Hi, I'd like to deposit this into my mom's account." Her voice was clear, no trace of trouble in it. Just a kid running an errand. The teller was a man in his early 40s, graying around the temples, wearing a too-tight shirt and a name badge that read, Carl. He barely glanced at her at first, but when he opened the envelope and saw the check inside, his entire demeanor shifted. He squinted at the check, then at Ava, then back to the check again. "Where did you get this?" he asked slowly, like he was speaking to someone he didn't trust. Ava blinked. "From my mom," she said. "She told me to deposit it today." Carl's eyebrows rose. This is a lot of money for a child to be carrying around. His voice carried a subtle edge, not loud but sharp. He picked up the phone beside his keyboard and muttered something into it, then returned his attention to Ava. "I'm going to need some ID." Ava, a little rattled now, opened her backpack and pulled out her school ID. Carl barely looked at it before shaking his head. "This isn't good enough. You could have taken this check. You could have found it." The accusation hung in the air like a bad smell. She felt a lump rise in her throat. "I didn't steal anything," she said softly. Carl didn't budge. "We need to verify this. You'll have to wait over there." He pointed to a small bench near the lobby side wall, the one they usually reserved for fraud cases or people causing a scene. Ava sat, eyes wide, confusion and embarrassment twisting in her chest. She looked around. No one stepped in. No one questioned Carl. A woman with a stroller glanced over and looked away. A man in a suit adjusted his tie and focused on his phone. She clutched her backpack tighter and waited. And as the seconds ticked by, she began to wonder if she had done something wrong. All she wanted to do was follow her mom's instructions. But inside that bank, she had already been judged. The bench felt colder than it looked. Ava sat still, her back straight, doing what her mother always told her. When they doubt you, stay calm. Let your character speak louder than your words. But in that moment, silence felt like punishment. Around her, the bank moved on. People came and went, stepping past her without so much as a glance. One woman, pushing a stroller, paused for half a second when she saw Ava sitting alone. Her eyes lingered on the child's anxious face, then flicked up to the teller behind the glass. But she said nothing. She just adjusted her purse and walked out. A man in a charcoal suit shifted uncomfortably in line. He kept looking toward Ava, then at Carl, then back at his phone, pretending to check emails. His jaw tightened, but still, not a word. Even the security guard, a middle-aged man with a kind face, hesitated by the front door. He glanced at Ava, eyebrows drawn, as if something didn't sit right with him, but he didn't move. Not yet. It wasn't that they didn't see what was happening. They just didn't want to get involved. 10 minutes had passed. Maybe 15. To Ava, it felt like an hour. Her fingers traced the zipper on her backpack over and over, her eyes darting toward the door each time it creaked open. And then, it opened again. A woman stepped inside, heels clicking against the polished floor like a metronome counting down to something inevitable. She wore a tailored navy suit that fit like it was made for her alone. Her posture was perfect, her expression unreadable. But her eyes, they were locked on her daughter. That was Ava's mother. Her name was Camille Hart. Now Camille wasn't the type to raise her voice. She didn't need to. She carried herself with the kind of quiet power that made rooms fall silent without a word. She had built her own tech firm from the ground up, started in her kitchen with a used laptop and a toddler on her hip. Now she sat on 3 corporate boards, managed over 100 employees, and still packed Ava's lunch every morning. She walked straight to her daughter, knelt briefly to check her face, and then stood tall. Her gaze moved to the teller. "Is there a reason my daughter has been sitting over there for 15 minutes, where she asked, voice calm but razor sharp. Carl blinked, then stuttered. She tried to deposit a large check. I couldn't confirm." Camille cut him off. "You mean the check I gave her, the one drawn from this very bank?" "My account." The room went still. Carl opened his mouth, but nothing coherent came out. He looked from Camille to Ava, then down at the check still sitting on his counter. His fingers fumbled with the paperwork like they might somehow explain things for him. Camille stepped forward, slow and deliberate. "Let me be perfectly clear," she said. "My daughter came in here to deposit a check from my account. That check is valid. Her name is on the account. You had no reason to treat her like a suspect." He tried to salvage the moment. "It's standard procedure," he muttered. "We have to be cautious with unusual transactions." Her eyebrows lifted. "Unusual," she echoed. "You mean a young black girl depositing money with perfect documentation? That's what you call unusual?" His face flushed, but he said nothing. She reached into her purse and pulled out her business card, placing it gently on the counter. "Camille Hart, Chief Executive Officer of Hart Tech Solutions. I've been banking here for 8 years. My business account, my personal account, and my retirement fund are all with your branch." Carl stared at the card like it had teeth. Camille didn't blink. "Today, you not only embarrassed my daughter, you made a judgment about who she is and who I must be, based on nothing but the color of her skin. That judgment, that's going to cost this bank." A hush swept the room. Even the security guard took a step closer, suddenly aware of the gravity in the air. Carl swallowed hard. I didn't mean any offense." Camille leaned in just slightly. "That's the problem. You didn't mean it. You did it anyway." The branch manager arrived moments later, summoned by the uneasy silence and the dozen curious eyes watching everything unfold. A short man in a crisp shirt and nervous smile, he approached Camille with both hands raised, like stepping into a fire he hoped wouldn't burn too badly. "Ms. Hart, we sincerely apologize. This isn't how we conduct business." Camille turned to him, eyes steady. "But it is how your employee conducted business," and no one stopped him. The manager nodded, lips pressed tight. He offered an apology, a free consultation, even a private banker. But Camille had already made up her mind. "You'll be closing all of my accounts by the end of the day," she said. "Personal and business. I'll move everything elsewhere. I don't invest in places that treat my daughter like a threat." Carl stood frozen behind the counter, his face pale, his hands still resting near the check he never processed. The teller didn't just lose a deposit that day. He lost a client worth hundreds of thousands, maybe more. But more than that, the branch lost something harder to replace. It lost trust. Now, I've told you this story not just to stir the pot, but because it matters. It's easy to think we live in a time where things like this shouldn't happen anymore. But the truth is, they still do. Quietly, casually, in everyday places like a neighborhood bank. That little girl, Ava, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue or cry. She just sat there holding her dignity close like a coat in the cold. And that's the part that stuck with me most. The grace she showed in the face of judgment. The kind of strength that doesn't need to shout to be heard. And Camille, her mother, she didn't come in swinging fists. She came in with truth, clarity, and power earned over years of hard work. She reminded that bank and all of us watching that respect isn't something you decide who gets based on appearances. It's something everyone deserves until they give you a reason otherwise. So the next time you see someone being dismissed, overlooked, or doubted for how they look, ask yourself, would I stay quiet or would I speak up? Because silence too has consequences.